What's up, tubers? Tio here, Simplistic Fishing, coming back at you tonight for a new lake breakdown. We're still in Texas. You know, we only have about 5 or 6 lakes left in Texas to break down. I think that's it. So if you're looking for a Texas lake breakdown, go out on the playlist and check it out. I'm sure we've probably already done it. And if not, it will be coming soon. The two biggest ones we're holding off on are Amistad and Lake Falcon because they're so low. But again, we still got a few left. And tonight, we're going to mark one of those off our list, and that is Lake Coleman. If you've never heard of this one, it's just a little bit north of Ivy. It looks like it's got some giants in it and some pretty cool looking offshore stuff. Let's go check it out. Bye. Like we always do before we go out and break down any lakes in Texas, we go out to the Texas Park and Wildlife fishing page to really find out all the information we can about the lake, you know, different characteristics, what types of fish they have, where to fish, all that good stuff. And so that's what we're going to do tonight. We're going to start out here on Lake Coleman. You can see it's located on Jim Ned Creek in Coleman County, about 45 miles southeast of Abilene and about 13 miles north of the city of Coleman. Surface areas are 2,000 acres with a maximum depth of 48 feet, and it was impounded in 1966. A couple key things to notice at the top here, if you'll look down here where it says normal clarity, clear to stained with visibility up to 4 feet, so pretty clear lake. And the fluctuation, the average is 3 feet annually, but it may have prolonged periods with dropping water levels, and we're gonna see that in Google Earth when we switch over. It definitely exposed some things for us. Get down here to predominant fish species. We've got largemouth bass, white crappie, hybrid striped bass, channel, and flathead catfish. And then if you scroll down a little bit further, it talks about angling opportunity. It just kind of tells you, what species are good in this lake. And you can see largemouth bass is good, catfish, crappie, and striped bass as well. And then sunfish is at fair. When we go up here to the lake records, a giant bass was caught on this one. Largemouth bass, 14.83 pounds. The length was 25 inches. And it was caught in 2021, so fairly recent catch there to see as well. And then the last thing, just want to talk to you about a couple things here. Lake Coleman has a rocky shoreline. We're going to see that with numerous points and ledges. We're going to see that as well. It also talks down here a little bit about tips and tactics. It says that the floating worm and jerk baits is really, really good on this lake, along with spinner baits and crankbaits. And it also talks about this lake being excellent topwater fishery. So could be a cool one to go look at. It's not too far from Lake Ivy either. So if you're making the trip out there, maybe stop by this one just to kind of see what's going on. Let's go ahead and switch over to the Google Earth side and let's see what we found on this one. So here we are, we're out on Google Earth and it's time to take a look at Lake Coleman. You can tell here, a pretty small body of water, right? Only about 2,000 acres, so not very big, but we were able to find some pretty cool stuff on this lake. So let's go over and look at the left-hand side first. You can see how we have this thing broken out. So we start off by just talking about cover. That could be brush that we found, different types of rock that we found, some man-made structure. You can see some debris and things like that. So just a couple different areas of things we found on this lake. We've also got channels, and that's going to be all these tracks that you see. You see these green tracks? These tracks actually line up perfectly with the creek channels, and I'll show you that here in a minute when I draw the water down. And that's very key because if you're out there and you're out there fishing and you really want to position yourself around the creek channels, or you're looking for big bends, maybe like that big bend right there or that one right there, or maybe even a bend over here, this is kind of obvious. But any of those little turns, those can be really, really key areas to find fish. And those creek channels can definitely be game changers. So that definitely helps you there. Then you've got the offshore stuff. Now it actually won't show up until I double click it and bring it up to the current year that I brought in the offshore hotspots. But you can see here, these are all the different offshore hotspots that we have marked on this lake. And what we mean by offshore is there's something there from a contour perspective or something that triggered us to say, hey, you definitely want to look here from an offshore standpoint. I can tell you that right out here, this looks really, really juicy right over here in this area. We're going to talk about that here in a minute as well. And then we're going to go over and we're going to look at the ramps. So there's not too many ramps on this lake. One of the things that we do here, I'm over more in the DFW areas. We get on some of these city lakes and you can fish the old boat ramps or fish boat ramps that aren't used that much, or even the ones that are being used, and they can really be productive areas to fish. So definitely something you always want to know where the ramps are for that. And then you also want to know too, in case you have any trouble on the lakes, where's the closest ramp to get to. So we've got all those marked as well. No Texas Park and Wildlife fish attractors on this lake, but lots of good stuff. So let's go ahead and jump into this thing. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna draw this back. I'm gonna take off this view here so we can see a whole picture of the lake. And I'm gonna draw this back to 2016. That was when the water was down the most, at least what I could tell. So I'm gonna take this back to 2016. We're gonna lose our offshore things, but don't worry, we'll come back and we'll put the offshore things back on there. But pretty much, we're not gonna have to go over to the Navionics mobile app on this one to look at the contours because everything is exposed right here because the water is down so much. So I'll go back, I'll put on the offshore stuff and you'll see, but a lot of the stuff we're gonna talk about here. So let's go ahead and just start down here at the dam like we always do. We're gonna work our way up on the north and go work our way back to the west, and then we'll come back to the east. So really right in here, now things have changed here definitely dramatically since you have this picture. Actually, I think this is this is after it changed, but if you move back to say 2012 or something like that, this all changes and you don't have that cut through. I thought, maybe I'm thinking of a different lake. I might be thinking of a different lake. I was thinking, yep, I must be thinking of a different lake. So let's go back to 2016. It got us all confused here right out of the gate. That's always great. But we're gonna go to 2016 when that water was down the most. You can see everything's basically exposed here. And we're just gonna work our way again from the dam. So you've got an old boat ramp here. You could definitely try this out. You know, it doesn't look like it's being used much. This could be a nice little area to find, and probably got a couple little ledges and things for them to hang around on that boat ramp as well. Then we're gonna move up here. You can go through this little channel here. This is like a little cut through channel that takes you back in here. When I fished this lake once actually, and we actually launched right here at Preston Morris Park. But as you go up here, some pretty cool things up in here. This looks like it could be an old pond or something like that. But if you get out here more offshore, that's where you start finding this offshore rock and stuff like that, especially right in this little area. I would definitely go check that out. You've got a pretty good little ledge here as well. So you got a nice little point that comes out with a nice drop right there along that ledge. You've got a nice point that's over here that you could go check out. Then you just got some really heavy rock going in through here, through this little causeway that goes through here. Some really good rock off that point and some really good rock right there off of that point. Then we're gonna travel in, right? We're gonna go through in here through the boat. When we come out, you're gonna wanna fish those points as well, right? You got some debris right here. Looks like maybe a pipe or something that's coming out here with lots of good rock right in here. And you got a really nice little rocky point going on right there. Then you're gonna move on up. This lake's got some docks as well. So I'm sure you could get the dock fishing going on, but I didn't see much from, you know, Google Earth side moving down here until I got more out here around this point. Definitely mark this as an offshore spot. You can tell it's a little bit steeper on this side, a little more gradual on this side, but this looks really good from a contour perspective. Just looks like a really good point to fish. And you've also got a little tree right there on the edge of the point too you could take advantage of. Then we're gonna move on back. We're gonna keep going down here. We're looking at the bank line, right? We're looking to see if there's anything that's really stands out. I didn't see too much back in here, and a lot of rocky shoreline and stuff like that. But I did try to find any type of the anomalies, and you have a little bit of an anomaly back here as well. You've got a little bit of a ditch or a creek channel. I can't really tell what it is. But as it comes here, it kind of opens up right in here, and you've got a little rock pile out here in the middle of the lake right in there. And you've got a little bit right here that kind of makes a little point here. So I'm thinking maybe, you know, try right in those areas. That could be a little productive spot for you. You can also try these docks. It looks a lot deeper right there in those docks. So maybe that's where that little creek channel swings here and swings right into those docks. So definitely take a look at those docks as well. Then we're gonna move on out. This is where it gets a little bit more interesting. We got a nice little rocky point right here that comes out. This is gonna be underwater, right? So if we move this up to say 2018, we're way off the bank here. So just remember as you're looking at this, we're looking at it with the water way down. So it's gonna look totally different when you go out there, but definitely that little point there, I can see that being productive. You got an old boat ramp that's right here with a lot of good washout right there at the bottom. Then you're gonna come out here, and this is where it gets really cool. And this is what I was talking about from an offshore standpoint. I think this is where you could really take advantage. So if we look at this, you know, really what you see is you see these track lines, these red lines. And what I've tried to do is I've tried to kind of outline where the hard spots are and where the ledges are that are coming up off of this point. So if we zoom in here, you're gonna see it. Here's where that break is, right in there. And I've kind of marked it for you. That's where the rock is pretty much the heaviest. Then you got this little point here with a pretty heavy rock here as well. And then you got another little rock pile that's over here, and then it's pretty much dirt, right? So my guess is somewhere from here to about here, that's gonna be your high percentage area to find some offshore stuff right in that area. Now, if we move that up to 2018, you're gonna see it completely goes away. Most people are gonna wanna come up here because visually, you know, just from, if you're looking at it visually, you're thinking you need to be fishing up in here, which I'm sure there's fish up there too. But I'm thinking when you're talking offshore and trying to find them kind of collected up, pull back just a little bit, go to those tracks, you may be able to find some more fish there. All right, so let's go ahead and move this back to 2016. Let's keep moving up. Of course, lots of those docks, right? We've got a pretty good creek channel that comes back here. I'll zoom this back for you so you can see it. But it comes back through here, kind of bends over. You've got a good creek channel swing going on right in here, right there in that little area. Could be pretty much a hot spot, you know, just fishing that little bend right there. Then it has a pretty decent bend coming out here, and then it ends at this point. This point's good too. You've got lots of flooded timber all around the point. Plus it's just a main lake point. You can't pass it up. And then you've got a little bit of man-made structure that's over here too. I can't tell what the heck this is, but some kind of laydown or something like that that's in there. Like, I don't know if it's like a old dock or what it is, but just something to check out that I was able to pick up on the imagery. Then we're going to get up here. We're not going to see too much, but you will notice that when we talk about the offshore stuff, that I've got some offshore stuff that's put up here. Most of it is fishing like around these points right in here, fishing up in here around these points, and then probably fishing more of these back sides of this huge flat, because this is just a big giant flat that sticks out with a big turn going around it. What I mean by that is, let's move it up to 2016, you'll see what I'm talking about. So now you don't see that big point. So this is the giant flat you could fish, and you're basically just gonna look on the outside edges of that flat. You can look on the top two during certain times of year, but most of the time they'll be collected more towards just that outside, right where they can start getting into the little bit deeper water. All right, then we've also got a creek channel that's up here. The image is not too great here, so let's move back to 2014. Might can get even better, but here we can see a nice little creek channel coming through here. And then as you get on the outside of that creek channel, here's where you got a nice little point. You got some rock and some flooded timber there. You've also got a nice little rock line that goes right here. Very isolated little areas, but definitely something you could take advantage of. Then as we move back up in here, we get more up into the river. Just a couple things I wanted to point out for you guys. One, here's your creek channel, right? I marked the creek channel for you. These are not boat lanes, so don't go flying through there. It's just marking exactly where the creek channel is. But some anomalies that are over here too. You've got some rock that's right here. And then look at this right here. It's almost like an old rock fence or maybe a pig pen or something like that. No telling what it used to be, but you've definitely got a nice little rock wall that goes right in that area. Here's your creek channels, and as you go back and you're moving up the river, there are some areas in here where you get into some pretty good brush. So you got some brush piles that are out here kind of around this little bend you could check out. You got some more that's up in here, some more up in here, and then it starts getting, you know, a little bit narrower, and then you've got some more that's up in here as well. It's pretty good brush that's up in there. And of course you're saying, man, there's nothing up there, but I promise you, when the water's up, you can definitely get up there. You can tell it looks completely different than what we just looked at. So let's keep moving back. We're going to go back towards the dam, see what else we can find. We don't have much more to cover on this lake, but we're going to go back to 2016 again. And again, we have a nice little creek channel that's down here as well. And then as we move up, we don't really see too much. There's a little couple points here that I wanted you to check out that we'll talk about here in just a second from the offshore side. And then we get down to here, we just got more rock, right? Fishing around the dam can always be good. And I like this little rock here because it cuts out, it jets out. It's a little bit different than everything else that's down there. And then of course the dam just looks like the dam, and the dam is usually a good place to fish. So again, pretty small reservoir, but has the potential to produce some pretty good fish. Let's go up here and let's talk about the offshore stuff, and then we will end this video. Again, I'm not gonna do the Navionics side because basically we saw everything offshore that we needed to because the water was so low. I'm gonna double click offshore here. It's gonna pop all these things up. I'm gonna take off the view again from the sidebar, and let's just go talk about this offshore stuff. So really what you're looking at from offshore is these points, right? There was that little underwater point that was right there. There's one here. This was that big flat that had those rock ledges. So offshore there and offshore there. That offshore point that's right here as well. We've got some more offshore spots that are up here off these little points. These three little points up here could get real interesting. I didn't even notice that one too. That one could be good too. Couple more here. Let's go ahead and do this. This might be easier. I think I've almost confused myself with all these other waypoints on here. But let's just look at just this offshore stuff and you'll see what we marked. So we'll start at the dam. First spot for offshore was that spot I talked to you about where that point is, right in there. This is the main lake point. That's going to be good. These are those rock ledges that were out there, plus, you know, the huge flat that's out here as well. So these could all be good. You've got good offshore points that are back here. You see these here as well. Got another one back in there as well that looks really good. There's not too much here. You've also got some more offshore stuff there. We talked about that one. That was like a little bitty hump or a ledge or something that goes right there. This is that point where that creek channel came out. And that's the inside rounded point of that one as well. This is that stuff we talked about earlier with the big flat that's out here that's kind of, you know, it's underwater. Got a nice point down there as well. Got a couple good points up there. And I think that's really all we put for the offshore stuff. But man, that's plenty of offshore stuff to fish. If I was coming out here for the second time, I guess you could say, the first time I went was like in January. But if I was coming out here, say in May, I would probably spend a lot of time in this little area right here. I'd probably spend some time up in here on this little area too. And I'd spend quite a bit of time down by the dam as well, and just see what I can find there. Now, not an expert by any means, but that's just be my personal opinion on how I'd approach the lake. I'd love to hear any of the locals that fish this lake, you know, any tidbits or any pointers that you guys might have as well. Anyways, guys, I hope this helps you out a ton. Make sure to go check out our website, simplisticfishing.com. We include all the waypoints for Lake Coleman. We can put them on an SD card for you so you can put them on your graph, and we also send you the Google Earth files so you can view them on your computer and do your planning for the next time you go out fishing. So go check it out. It's not just Lake Coleman. We have hundreds of lakes out there for you to choose from. Simplisticfishing.com. And until next time, guys, I hope you catch your PB. Take it easy.